Hello and welcome to the DEBUG06-02 video solution. I've recorded this because we're dealing with arrays this week, and that's for several students that has seemed to prove to trip them up, and so I thought I'd break it down as best I can. This may be a little bit of a longer tutorial. I'm probably going to break it up into multiple parts, but we'll get through it here. First off, just understanding what the program does from a high level. If we read the comments, we're going to receive 4 inputs, 4 test scores, and we're going to determine an average based on those and then the associated letter grade. And it's on a normal grading scale. 90 and above is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, and so on like that. So we'll go ahead and get started here. In the past, I may have told you that in the declarations there's typically not any bugs, and that is typically true. However, the one thing you look for is just read over them. Make sure you kind of try to imagine what they might be for. The main thing is understanding whether there's a number. There's a difference between declaration and initialization of a variable. The declaration, it contains 2 things. It is the type, string or num, and the identifier, the name that you refer to. That happens to be name, but score, or any of these. This is the identifier. And those are the 2 parts of any variable declaration. If we want to assign a value, then the variable is then initialized. The way to think about it is you can't do anything, you can't get any value out of a variable until it's been initialized. These variables, as well as these 3 down here, have merely been declared, but they contain only garbage at this point, or at least they can be assumed to contain garbage. In many programming languages, they actually do contain some sort of default value, but in some they will not, so it's just best to assume that they're garbage. These have both been declared and assigned values. All of these right here, actually. Now, there's something special going on here with these arrays, and I want to make sure you can understand them as best as I can. These, of course, are constants, but this is an array, and this is an array. Now, the one bug, as we look through these, we go, okay, the num score, well, string name, we're not assigning any values, that's fine. We have 2 other number variables, and we're assigning numbers to them, so that's fine. We're declaring a number array, which can be thought of as a series of variables, and we're assigning numbers to those. And we're declaring a string array and assigning strings to those. Remember, strings and literals always have to be contained in quotations. Anything in a program that's not in quotations is going to be a keyword, an identifier, something like that. So to have a string, it needs to be in quotations. Excuse me. And then we have 3 more variables down here that are said to be numbers, and we're not assigning any values, so that's fine. However, you notice I skipped over one because this is the one we have a problem with. This is a non-numeric value. It's not in quotations, which in and of itself is incorrect, but it is ZZZZ. That should be a string. And we are trying to declare it as a number, and it is obviously not numeric, but it's not really a string either. We need to fix that. We need to put that in quotations, and we need to change this to string. Some people have been known to do one or the other, but not both, and it is not correct unless both things are done. Alright, so there's our first bug in the program. The other thing is, and we talked about this in the chapter about how to use parallel arrays to do a search. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. You notice I've got the book up in the background here. The first thing is I want you to understand an array declaration. They are different from normal variable declarations, but in some ways they're really the exact same. They're just in a different format. Obviously, you understand these 2. I mean, hopefully you do. We have a variable called numTest. We're assigning it a value of 4. That's a single variable. I can refer to that anytime throughout the program by using that exact wording there, such as right down here. Obviously, if you see that, you know that means what? Value of 4. So you can mentally replace that variable with the number 4. With an array, it's kind of like a series of variables. The array declaration, and as we see over here in the book, here's where it looks like what it does on our page. Num sum vowels with a number of 3, that's going to be the array's size, and so therefore there's 3 different values, 25, 36, and 47. This is the exact same as up here. Up here, the way we're looking at it is we're declaring an array of this size, and we're putting 25 into the first subscript, 36 into the second, 47 into the third. This is the exact same thing. So it's important when you see this sort of a declaration that you realize, oh, I now have an array called sum vowels that has 3 elements in it. The first element with a subscript of 0 is 25. The second one, and so to apply that to our code, what you need to see this as is the array called ranges with a subscript of 0 that has a value of 90, a subscript of 1 that has a value of 80, subscript of 2 that has a value of 70, 3 that has a value of 60, 4 that has a value of 50. So in a sense, and do not do this as part of your solution because it will be incorrect, but in a sense it's like declaring all these variables separately, sort of like num ranges, except for that would be incorrect because my syntax is wrong. But now anywhere throughout the program I can write any of these values like this. I say like this, what I mean is, sorry, we'll just go with those 3. If I use this reference anywhere in the program, just like I use this reference here to refer to the number 4, I can use this reference right here to refer to the number 80. And you should be able to understand that just by looking at this. I realize that's going to take a little getting used to, and hopefully I can help you with that. So I'm just going to leave these first 3 here just for the moment to kind of help you look back as we go through this. And then we'll clean them up here at the end. So just going over that difference in what we're looking at here with arrays. These are specifically parallel arrays. We have 90 associated with A, 80 with B, 70 with C, and so on. They're not associated in any specific way in the sense that the way they're declared, but they just happen to be lined up like that, intentionally programmed that way. And as we will see, the logic actually allows us to do some cool things with that. So, got through the declarations here. We declared a num called sub, and that actually refers to subscript. But it also gets used in the program to do something else too. But subscript is just a way to, well, like I say, it'll be a way to search through the array, and then it's going to serve as a counter for our loop here to enter the number of tests. But we'll get to that here in a moment. Actually, maybe it would be helpful, and then I'll pause the video after this, to just look at this program from a high level real quick. I think that a lot of mistakes are made by going through the program at just a high level and going, oh, well, that's what that does, that's what that does, that's what that does, and you think it looks fine. It may look fine, you may know that, oh, this is what it's intended to do, but you have to follow every single line of logic to ensure that what actually happens matches the intention. That's the definition of a bug, basically, is it not doing what it's meant to do. So, but nonetheless, I'm going to just, for your sake to understand the program a little better, go from a high-level perspective. This is our priming input. We're going to ask for the same input down here at the end. And I say input, we output to the user, we ask them for input, and then we receive that input into a variable called name. Every time we come across a variable in the program, we should, at least the first time, double check that it is declared. We should also ensure that it's spelled the same as it is everywhere else, especially in the declaration. So we can see that name is. But this is our priming input, then we have it down here. And this goes with this entire loop here. So we have a loop control question. We're going to determine whether the user wants to quit. If they don't, we're going to go here, and so on. One other thing to make clear is how while loops process. If the loop control question evaluates false, you go to the end while. I like to look at it as going to the end of the end while, and you execute the next line of code afterwards. In this case, that happens to be the stop. We finish the program. When a loop control value evaluates true, you always execute the body of the loop. When you execute the body of the loop, when you execute that last line, I like to think of it as hitting the front side of the end while. Anytime you hit the front side of the end while, regardless of anything else going on in the program, you always have to go back up to the loop control question and ask it again. You may already know mentally that it's false, but you have to do that. You have to evaluate true or false. And that's the only way you can exit the loop. You can't just say, oh, well, we're done, we're just going to go to the next line. So, sorry, just got off on a little tangent there. But anyhow, we're going to do that. We're going to, we'll go through here and enter all our test scores. The idea here is to use a counter to determine whether we're less than 4, whether we've entered our 4 tests. We're going to add the score to whatever that total is and keep incrementing the total till we get our total scores on the 4 tests, and then we're going to take and divide that to get our average, and then we're going to we're going to do this search here for the average in this ranges array to determine what range in which it falls, and then based on that we're going to assign the letter grade of the corresponding subscript. So that's why I say it's parallel here. If I determine that it's in this range, then I would use this subscript, and that's how I do this. So just from a really high level, and then output the name of the student that I guess we input up here somewhere, and their letter grade. Again, really high level. We're going to go back and step through line by line here, but I'm going to go ahead and break up the video here. So.